Hey folks, welcome back. So this week we are continuing on with the Egg and Wagon build, and the next step on this project is to start framing in the ends of the chicken coop. Alrighty, so our next step is to do some milling and cut out what will be our rafters. Now, before we can do that, I've got some odds and ends of stuff. I'm not sure you can really see it, but just kind of random cut-offs from the other stuff we build. So we got to get all that stuff cleared off from the tracks. And then I've already got a log sitting right over there that is, I think it should be a little over 10 feet long, which I haven't decided entirely how long I want to do these. I might keep them 10 foot, and then that would give us about a foot overhang on either side. I think that would probably work well, but I might cut them down just a little bit less than that. I don't know, we'll see. Alrighty, well, we got our log milled up. I cut it down into 2x6s. Seeing as they're going to be spanning a little bit of distance here, I figured it'd be good to make them a little bit bigger than just our 2x4s that we're using for framing. So I actually ended up with 10 boards out of that log, which is a little better than I thought I might do. But we're still going to need 2 more in order to have everything that we need for our rafters. Now, apparently things were going a little too well this afternoon because good old Murphy, my nemesis, decided to stop by for a little bit. And as I was loading the log up on there, my cant hook decided to kind of give out on me. You can see it's all cracked there, and it's just about ready to pull out of there. So I need to get a new handle made for that thing. Now, I kind of knew it was starting to go. I noticed a little bit of a crack forming on there, so that wasn't a huge surprise. And then right after that happened, my camera decided to die on me, which again, I kind of had an idea that that might be going as well. So right now I'm recording on my phone. The G7X Mark IIs seem to have a bit of an issue with the little aperture assembly on them. And I've had to replace those before, but I was kind of thinking that I might be switching over to a different type of camera. I just wasn't expecting it was going to be quite this soon. I was hoping that one was going to last a little bit longer than it did. But anywho, seeing as we still need a couple more boards for rafters, I think what we'll do is we'll grab another log. I think we'll probably cut, I have no idea where I'm pointing, I can't see the screen, but the big one back here, we'll cut that one down to length. I think this is about a 14 footer, so we'll cut 4 feet off of the crotch end over there. We'll grab this guy, we'll peel a couple boards off from there, get a couple more 2x6s for our rafters, and that might be about all that we have time for today. And the pull cord broke for the mill, so now we've got to switch that out too. It's just one of those days, I guess. Just one of those days. All right, so this afternoon, we're gonna see if we can't get some of these rafters cut and in place. I finished off the milling last night, so I think we should be good on that aspect. Now, as you can probably see, I already have one in place, and that was just sort of a test run to make sure that I'd calculated all my angles and lengths and all that stuff right, and that it was actually gonna fit in place, and it actually looks pretty good. So I think we are ready to start digging into this pile of stuff, and I got a couple more that are over on the mill yet that I got to bring over. Start getting those cut, getting the notches cut in them, and getting them up there and nailed in place and ready to put a roof on top. All right, so this afternoon, it's kind of windy and cold out, and I think it's supposed to warm up a little later this afternoon, but at least for early this afternoon, we're gonna work on making a new handle for the cant hook. I've already got a blank cut out here. It's about 2.5 by 2.5 inches, something like that. And so we're gonna work on trying to get this thing rounded off, and we'll get the end tapered so it'll fit down into the cant hook part of it, whatever that's called, and get that thing back up and ready to go. that down to the bottom there now. So that's all the way in. Now we can start working on rounding off the rest of the handle. Now we want to make sure that our grain is going this way, and then that's kind of going in the same direction as the direction that we'll be pushing or pulling on it, and hopefully that should keep it stronger. Just ensure that that doesn't pop off there if it happens to get a little bit loose. I don't think it will, but it definitely won't now. All right, so the next thing we're gonna work on here today is we're gonna see if we can't rip out this little bit of fence that's running right through here and then over to, I think that tall post right there. I think that's what I'm looking at. It's kind of hard to tell on the phone here. It doesn't pick things up quite as well. But I want to get that ripped out because this area right over here, kind of at the end of where we put in the wood chips, I'm hoping to plant some potatoes in here tomorrow maybe. If the weather's good and if I get all this stuff done, we're going to put one variety of potatoes over here, and then I'm going to put another actually in the same place where I put them last year. Not generally the best idea to plant things in the same area 2 years in a row, but it's a decent place to put it, and so we're just going to go with that. But regardless, this fence over here is going to kind of be in the way to get in here with the tractor to try digging this area up, and it's got to go regardless because we aren't going to have a fence there long term. So we're going to see if we can't get that pulled out of there. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that one for the time being. I think I'll try ripping that rose bush out of there first, instead of trying to tangle with trying to get that T-post out of there ahead of time. All right, so the plan here is that we switched out to the brush grapple, and I think I've got everything pulled out down through here that was on the fence line, and it's really windy out. I'm gonna shut that back. And so I'm hoping that I can just kind of come down through here with the tines right along the ground and just grab everything up. Hopefully all the barbed wire will just get right up in there, and none of it's going to get wrapped around the sprockets over on the tracks. That's the plan anyhow. We'll see how it goes. Well, that actually cleaned up quite a lot easier than I thought it might. It's a little hard to show right now when I'm only got the phone to film with, but I was actually able just to kind of run right along through there, kind of crumple everything up, ball it up, and then just back all the way up through there, so that way any of the little strands that were of fence that were still kind of hanging out weren't going to get caught up underneath the track. Just backed over there, and then I just sort of dumped it off to the side for the time being. I'll probably throw that on the burn pile at some point, and that'll burn up all the old wood post, and then I can just pull the metal, the fencing and stuff like that out of it afterwards, and then that'll go off to the recycler. But regardless, that got all that out of the way, so now hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to start digging all this area up through right in here and get some potatoes planted. Alrighty, so today we are planting potatoes. Now, I've got a new variety this year. We got some red Pontiacs. I almost said Potomac, red Pontiacs. So they've got kind of a red colored skin to them. I know it looks brown, and it does because it's got dirt on it, but they do have a red skin. And then I've also got some leftover Lehighs from last year. Those are what we planted, so we'll do that variety as well. Now, the first thing that we're going to work on for today is getting these things cut up, and what we'll do is any of the bigger ones, we'll cut them down into maybe 2 or 3 pieces. The smaller ones, we'll just plant those whole, just so long as they've got at least one eye on them, one little start. That's all you need. So we'll get these cut up. That'll give them a chance to dry up just a little bit for these cut edges to dry, and then we'll get them planted later this afternoon. All right, well, we got all of our potatoes cut up. We should have, I think, more than plenty for what we're doing here. And so the next thing, we need to do a little bit of prep over here. We've got this old electric pole here. I asked them if they could leave it here because I thought, hey, I might be able to get a good use for that. And the guy said, yeah, sure, we don't want it. So we got to get that moved out of the way. And then I want to kind of try combing through this area a little bit and seeing if I can find any rocks or sticks or anything like that are in here. I think there is, but obviously kind of the weeds have grown up and hidden some of that, so may not really be able to find too much, but I at least like to give that a try and get any of that stuff out of there before we start planting. So on today's episode of Fix It with Josh, we are working on a 1964 Massey Ferguson 35 Deluxe, and it seems that we've had a little bit of a hydraulic issue. Now, fortunately, this turned out to be a fairly easy fix. It was simply that this little pin right here had worked itself loose, and when I tried picking up that 3-bottom plow, I heard a little ping, and the hydraulic fluid started spraying all over the place. So I think with that back in place, we can hook the plow back on here and get to planting some taters. All right, well, I'm nowhere near as far done as I was hoping to be at this point, and behind me here, this is the new area, and it is really, really rough. Now, obviously, this was sod or hayfield or what beforehand, so it was definitely going to be pretty rough after getting plowed up. But it was worse than I was kind of thinking it might be. So what I just did is I spent probably a good hour or so tinkering around with the disc. Now, you'll notice I've only got the back set of discs on there because the front set, it's got some issues. It's got stuff that needs replacing on it. So I was only able to get the back set in good enough shape to use, but it actually works pretty well. Now, I've already done the front area over here, and I've disked that. I plowed it and then disked it, and that actually came out pretty decent. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to go over this area over here, disc it a few times, and that should get pretty well smoothed out, get the clumps broken up, and maybe it's not going to happen this evening, but then maybe tomorrow we'll be able to get stuff planted over here. All right, well, I promise today I really am going to get the potatoes planted. I was here late last night, basically until it was too dark to see anymore, and I was working on that new section over there, disking it and disking it and disking it again. In fact, I actually plowed through it a second time and then disked it again after that. and I basically just kept on going at it until I couldn't see to do it anymore. So I think it looks pretty good. It's good enough, and so I've already got the potato plow, middle buster, whatever you want to call it, hooked up on here, and we're gonna go over there and dig some furrows and then get some of these spuds in the ground. All right, that really could not have worked out any better than it did. I couldn't quite fit all of the red Pontiacs into this lower area, the old area here. So some of those had to go up into the new area. But by the time that I got finished with all the Lehighs, I had about 4 or 5 feet of row left. So that worked out just about perfect. So now we got to get all these guys covered up. And I actually had an idea for that. I'm not sure if this is gonna work or not, but we're gonna give it a try. So I've done just a little bit of modification to the disc here. And I've removed a few discs and I've actually moved them in. So we've kind of got a hiller better sort of thing going on here. And the idea is that this will just kind of pull all that dirt back over into the middle and cover the potatoes up. And as you can see, they're kind of sloped inward, so it's gonna draw the dirt in. I think it might work. We're gonna give it a try, and if it does work, that'll save me a whole lot of work out there with the hose. All right, so the last thing that I want to get done on the egg and wagon for this week is I want to get these rafters nailed in place. They're still just sitting on top of the framing. They aren't nailed down or anything. So I want to get that done, and then hopefully next week we'll start getting some roofing on it and siding and all that kind of stuff. All right, so the last thing that we're gonna do for this week is we need to get stuff watered. I did not get that done when I was out here yesterday, I guess, putting these in. So we need to give these things a good water and get them soaked in there real well. And this is gonna be nice this year because last year I was pulling water out of the creek because that was my only water source. It was hard, and I didn't do it nearly as much as I should have because, well, it was hard. But this year we've got the water system in place, so there's a hydrant somewhere over there. It might be behind that rock pile. I've already got some hoses hooked up, and we can just use that. This is going to be nice. This is going to be so much easier. All right, folks, well, I think that is gonna do it for this week's video. For next week, I'm like 99% sure I should have a new camera because I'm still filming off from my phone. It's kind of a pain, at least on my end of things. I'm not sure how different it's gonna look from your side of things, but it's kind of a pain to use the phone instead of having just a dedicated camera for this. So hopefully I should have that in for next week's video. It's gonna be different from what I've had before. It's gonna be more of a amateur professional or professional amateur, something like that setup. So it should be a little bit better than what I've been using. Whether or not I'll be able to pull out the full potential of it or not, I don't know, we'll see. But hopefully that'll be in for next week. As far as what we'll be working on, probably back to the coop, I guess, continuing on with that, hopefully getting some roof on there and some siding and whatever else. I guess we'll need a door, something like that, I don't know. We'll worry about that next week. So I think that is gonna be it for this week's video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.